Now take the time to set your posture up so that you can feel two lines of energy going up from about your sits bones up through your chest. And notice that if you're more on one sits bone than the other, see, I tend to kind of lean like that. If you're more on one, it'll be more like a curve. The one line will be stronger than the other. So let yourself sit on both your sits bones equally, and you'll feel the line, the gravitational force, the force line, I guess you'd call it, sort of evenly between your left and right side. You feel the spine in between the two. You feel equal weight on both sits bones. There'll probably be a little bit of a tendency to kind of twist one way or the other. So you will have to work asymmetrically to stay symmetrical, because everybody's got some scoliosis, some curvature in the spine, that kind of thing. You actually are going to have to use your muscles a little bit differently to be upright. So let that happen. It's okay to work asymmetrically to achieve a upright, symmetrical posture. And then let the chest lift. So the armpit chest is very big. And let the hips slightly tuck so that you activate the lower abdomen. Because if you make the chest very big, you create too much of a curve in the lower back. You don't want that. You want the chest to be big, but you want it to be an S. So it's a big curvature in the chest, puffed up chest, but then the lower back is curving the opposite way. Right? So the chest is concave and the lower back is convex. Feet are planted, feet are getting heavier and heavier, sits bones are getting heavier and heavier. The front of the spine is lifting up to the ceiling. Right through the neck, back of the head is lifting up to the ceiling. Shoulders are relaxed, falling out to the sides. And you can stay with these actions. In yoga, an action is something you continue. A movement stops. Like if you move your arm and it stops. An action is something you keep doing. So these are actions. You keep doing them. You keep lifting the chest. You keep a gentle tuck in the lower back. That activates the lowermost abdomen. The feet keep getting heavier. Back of the skull keeps rising. So it's an action, and an action requires concentration. And you start to become aware of your body. That's the real benefit. Yes, there's, health benefits and so on, but you're becoming more aware of your body. So you're beginning to communicate with yourself, beginning to be more in contact with yourself, beginning to feel yourself more. And the body is a really good place to start. The heart generally will not really open or be felt unless the body is there to support it. Right? So you really need to be feeling the body. The body doesn't need to be super healthy. It doesn't need to be this way or that way, but it does need to be felt. That grounding, firm, physical, substantial feeling of the body. Here you are in the body. As the body. I am the body. It's not all that you are. It goes beyond that, but that's the portal. That's the door. I am the body. There's a vulnerability in being the body. There's a being in the real world that happens when we really are willing to be the body. We're here. We're not in some place that's abstract. Doorway of truth. Very courageous, very loving act to be in the body, feel the body. And feeling the body, let yourself feel the chest cavity. Might feel full, might feel empty, might feel wounded, might feel numb. Feel any way. Let yourself feel it. And notice that it probably feels a lot of different ways, and it probably is even changing. It's got a dynamic quality. Now, we're being very deliberate, we're being very concentrated, we're being very precise. We could also say that we're being very tender, we're being very attentive. We're being very sensitive. So we're bringing a lot of love, a lot of approval, a lot of care to this moment, to our experience in this moment, to being interested in our experience in this moment. So just notice how that is for you to be so attentive, to be so caring, to not be trying to change yourself, but really opening to your experience in the body, in the heart. And of course, the body and the heart and so on, these are all concepts. Doesn't mean there's not something there. There is something there. But these are all concepts. So you're really opening to your experience. You know, you're opening to something that we don't know anything about. The body, what's that? Life, what's that? The heart. We kind of know what a chair is, but like the heart, you know, what's that? The body, how does that work? Life, feeling. So a great act of courage. It takes a lot of heart, a lot of sensitivity, a lot of caring, a lot of contact. So the very act of meditating, opening, feeling into is the very act of awakening. You're awakening. There's no difference between the realization and the practice. This is one of the secrets of spiritual practice. There is no difference between awakening and practice. You're being courageous. You're being loving. You're being attentive, caring, strong, upright, profound, peaceful, calm. So there's a lot of love, there's a lot of approval. And then there's also a lot of truth, because we're not fabricating our experience. We're being good scientists. We're not trying to prove some theorem or we don't have some agenda. You know, you're just interested. So there's a lot of truth. You're receptive. You know, what is going on? How do I feel? What's it like to have a body? What's the shape of my mind? What's the feeling in my heart? What are the sensations in my body? So those ingredients that we normally talk about relative to communication, honesty and love or approval, well, they're here right now in contact with ourselves. We're communicating with ourselves. We're in communion. And concentration is key. If there's a tendency to sort of go into the head or fidget or go away, notice that. Notice how that feels. There's probably a lot of frustration or itchiness or some intense sensation that has us go away, that's just as valid to experience as anything else. As is emptiness or boredom or rage or fear or bliss. Probably some mixture of all of it. So the head center here is playing its role. It's being receptive. This is another key ingredient of communication, receptivity, listening. You're listening to your experience. If you really want to communicate with somebody else, really good to listen to them, to reproduce what they say. We often come in with what we want to say very quickly. But if we really want to communicate, listening is required. Right now we're listening to ourselves. The head center is receiving, understanding, which is a type of reproduction. And if there's, you just have to fidget and move, see if you cannot. If you do, you end up doing it, but see if you cannot do it and just what is the feeling of not doing it, even if it's difficult. Letting yourself really get in contact with the specifics of your experience. If it's emptiness, what kind of emptiness? Is it an emptiness that's like a dense block of emptiness? Or is it an emptiness like a open space? Or is it an emptiness like a vacuum, a sense of deficiency? If there's fear, where's the fear in your body? What's the temperature? If there's boredom, where do you feel that? Are there any muscular sensations with that? Getting more and more specific. Good, just taking a few deep breaths and then staying in this deeper contact. Let your eyes slowly open.